comes Tony, walking in the room, mic in hand, something's about to boom. Tell me what you gotta say. Tell me, make it count today. Big Tony speaks, and everybody listens. Big Tony speaks, his voice just keeps on lifting. When Tony talks, you know you gotta hear him. Big Tony speaks. Sit right down, let me hear your voice. Share your thoughts, Tony gives you choice. Tell me what you gotta say. Tell me, make it count today. You always speak, Big Tony speaks, and everybody listens. Big Tony speaks, his voice just keeps on lifting. When Tony talks, you know you gotta hear him. Big Tony speaks. Big Tony speaks. He's got something to say every single day. He's got something to say. Come on out and play. Big Tony speaks, and everybody listens. Big Tony speaks, his voice just keeps on lifting. When Tony talks, you know you gotta hear him. Big Tony speaks. Big Tony speaks. Big Tony. Big Tony speaks.
And video issues. My video is not going. There it is. It just popped up. Okay, can anybody hear me? All right. Of course, as usual, more issues. But as I say, if you're not encountering obstacles and opposition, you're not going the right direction. I learned that from gaming. So, I must be going in the right direction for sure. Welcome to Big Tony Speaks. I am Big Tony, your host, and do me a favor before we go ahead and get started into this. Go down below and hit that thumbs up, that like button, whatever it is, on your platform. We are streaming to Rumble, YouTube, Twitch, and Kick today. So do whatever it is. Show me some love on your platform. If you're not already following the channel, please do hit that follow or subscribe button, whatever it is on your platform, and turn those notifications on so you know when I come on, which, by the way, is Monday through Saturday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So, yeah, we got a few things to talk about today. And some kind of WTF. It's like our first story. Our first story is all about some radioactive hogs. I kid you not. So let us. I want to mention that I've told y'all that I was going to try to keep y'all up to date on the information coming out about the San Diego mosque shooters and etc. On last night, I was on Killer Carl's show, and he had me looking something up about that, and I came across a video. Unless y'all really want me to, I'm not going to show it on here because it is graphic, to say the least. It is video of the two of them when they eliminated themselves, and it actually, to me, it looks like the feminine looking one, took the other one out and then himself. So that's what it appears anyway. So anyway, also the manifesto, they say, oh, they released a 75-page manifesto. However, um, the only thing available out in the public is these little one-page snippets or two-page snippets out of this supposed 75-page manifesto, and no platform is allowing uh, hosting of the full supposed manifesto. Um, so so I can't confirm the validity or veracity of uh, any of this manifesto, because all we have is some snippets that people are posting up, and then they tell you, oh well, the rest of it says this, and well, why should I believe you? I want to see the actual document. I mean, even if it's on a law enforcement platform where you can only view it, that still would allow me to look it over and analyze it and etc. myself. And then I can relay that to you all. Um, so I don't, I truthfully, supposedly there were a letter in the car when they found the deceased shooters in the car. Supposedly there was a letter in the car. Supposedly there was another letter at one of the shooters' houses when they executed a search warrant. I've not seen either of those. There's a whole lot of questions in my mind. The left is vehemently denying that either of these individuals is trans, but the one, I showed you all pictures, and I showed pictures on Killer Carl's show, um, that you know, I the one I, in my mind, looking at that, I mean, I've seen feminine boys and feminine teenage boys, etc. That had feminine appearances and things like that. But that right there, just straight up looks like it is either a uh, a boy trying to be a girl or a girl trying to be a boy. One or the other. This person has adopted the appearance is a boy and has adopted the appearance of a girl, or is a girl attempting to transition, probably chemically with the hormones and all of that, into a boy. As Marilyn said, either a manly woman or a womanly man. So, yeah. Um, but as I get more information, I will present it to you all. Um, but only information that I can confirm in some way. And usually, confirmation requires three individual sources, three unique sources. Um, so that's a minimum for me. It has to be at least three. I prefer there to be more verifiable sources. This is why I went looking for the entire document. Um, Now that is funny, Elf. Elf says we need to bring back the trans fats. You notice the trans epidemic started after they removed trans fats from foods. So put those suckers back in there. Let's flatten the curve on this epidemic. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, let's go and get into our first story today. And this is the story regarding the radioactive hogs. So, radioactive hogs. Oh, radioactive hogs in the Fukushima nuclear disaster area. The mutant super pig population is surging out of control. So the radiation has created super pigs, and they are raining terror down. Nuclear hogs reproduce faster than they can be culled. In 2011, the Fukushima nuclear power plant disaster was hit by a massive 9.0 magnitude earthquake and subsequent tsunami caused by said earthquake, causing one of the worst radioactive disasters in history. Around 164,000 people were forced to flee from their homes to escape the radiation zone. In the quote, ghost towns located in the nuclear fallout zone, a mutant super pig population has surged out of control. The Daily Mail posted on X, mutant super pigs develop alarming new abilities in nuclear fallout zone. Well, can they fly? Because that's what I'm waiting for is for pigs to actually gain the power of flight. The New York Post reported, quote, amid the chaos, domestic pigs escaped into abandoned farmland and began interbreeding with indigenous feral boars, creating a mutant pig population with alarming genes, Popular Science reported. Researchers from Fukushima and Hirosaki universities discovered through DNA analysis that the hybrid progeny inherited the maternal domestic pig's rapid reproductive cycle, allowing populations to quickly multiply, unlike that of the boar. Excuse me. According to findings from the Journal of Forest Research. Hybrid pigs are also being developed in other parts of the world, so bear that in mind. Wild boars reproduce once a year, while domestic pigs have a speedy year-round reproduction cycle. Quote, excuse me, quote, feral swine are one of the world's most destructive invasive species, decimating crops, livestock, and delicate ecosystems. Efforts to repair their damage cost an estimated $3.4 billion in the U.S. alone, according to the U.S. Department of Agriculture. Daily Mail reported, quote, in simple terms, the animals inherited the domestic pig's ability to breed rapidly year round, but over time increasingly resembled wild boar genetically while still maintaining accelerated reproduction patterns. Co-author Dr. Donovan Anderson said, quote, "We hypothesized that the domestic swine's unique trait, a rabid year-round reproductive cycle, might be the key." Researchers believe the discovery could help explain why hybrid pig populations have become so difficult to control in several countries, including the United States, Canada, and parts of Europe, where feral swine are spreading aggressively. Not these radioactive ones, but just feral hybrids, pigs. The radioactive ones are just in Fukushima. And apparently they have superpowers. But the article did not explain. Very, very bad writing, in my opinion. Yeah, and I've said many times, these so-called journalists really need to go back to school and relearn how to write articles. I mean, I took in school, in high school, I took a class that specifically taught me how to write speeches and how to write articles and etc., how to write opinion editorials and etc. And I actually had to get up and give speeches and give lectures and things like that, um, for credit for the class. You know, everybody did. So, some of our days in that class were spent doing nothing but listening to the other classmates present their uh, lessons or their speeches or whatever the case may have been that day, um, and also presenting your own. Other days were, you know, listening to and learning from the teacher giving a lecture. So we learned all that stuff in school, and apparently these people didn't. Alrighty then. Marilyn just showed me a container where she made some pico de gallo. So apparently we're going to have something later that requires pico de gallo. So alrighty then. Okay, let's go ahead and hit the next thing. This one is going to take a little minute. Because this is a opinion editorial here that is talking about a House hearing that explored compatibility of Sharia law with U.S. Constitution amid rising concerns. Um, First off, I want to preface this whole thing by reiterating. Yeah, right. And that's sad, Elf. Kids should not be using AI for anything in school. They should be using this AI, the actual intelligence, not artificial intelligence. You need AI actual intelligence. You know, um, actual human intelligence instead of artificial general intelligence. Or a large language model. I'm sorry, but AI should not be, other than for the teacher creating presentations for their students. AI should not be involved in school, in my opinion. Period. And I don't care if it's elementary, if it's preschool, if it's middle school, junior high, whatever it's called in your area. or if it's high school, if it's prep school, college, university, I don't care. AI should not be involved in your schooling. You need to, as I said, use the actual intelligence. God put that gray matter in there for a reason. You're intended to use it. Yeah. And it really, really, really is a use it or lose it situation. Really, it truthfully is. Conehead? No, no conehead. Oh, now I messed my hair all up, pulling the hat up like that. But nope, no conehead. I pulled the hat up um, so that more of my face shows on the camera. It tends to kind of block if I don't. And most nights I have the hat that way. Whether you've noticed or not. Most nights the hat is pulled up so that you can see more of my face. Um, but anyway, I want to preface this whole thing by reminding you all. I've shown you all. I have shown on other shows, other podcasts, um, proof directly from the imams' mouths that uh, Islam is not a religion. In fact, in my intro, there's a clip of an imam telling his people, Islam is not a religion. Islam is a governance. And he goes on to further explain, that's just a snippet of an actual longer speech that he did. And, he goes on to further explain about Islam, but he never claims it to be a religion. So he states at the beginning, Islam is not a religion. Islam is a governance, and then he goes on to explain more about Islam to his people. You know, so they know that it's not a religion. However, you know, they are told by the Quran, their instruction booklet, which also contains all of the Sharia laws. Um, there is no book of Sharia law. Okay, Sharia is the law that is presented in the Quran. So there is no separate thing called Sharia law. Um, but in the Quran, in Sharia, they are actually told to lie and cheat and mislead the infidel. And who is the infidel? Anyone who is not a part of Islam. So, and with that being said, bear that in mind, that it is not a religion. And that by the confessions of their own imams, their own teachers, their own leaders. So let's go ahead and get into this article here. On May 13th, the House Judiciary Subcommittee on Constitution and Limited Government held a hearing entitled, quote, Sharia Free America: Why Political Islam and Sharia Law Are Incompatible with the U.S. Constitution, Part 2. So they already had one. Now this is Part 2. While news of the hearing largely focused on Marco Hunter Lopez, it took place as part of a larger initiative led by Representative Keith Self and Representative Chip Roy. who established the quote Sharia Free America Caucus late last year to address what they see as a danger to American civil liberties. And Islam and Sharia are a danger to American civil liberties. Absolutely, you know. I think that every American should actually learn what the Quran says that they're supposed to do, and what the Islamic laws actually are, and and the most important thing is what are their options when they encounter the infidel, the person who is not part of Islam and refuses to join Islam. You know, the 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 options, and it will be mentioned later in this article, but the options are get you to convert, convince you to convert to Islam, kill you, or subjugate you, charge you a jizya, which is a tax, and subjugate you as less than the dogs. They have a very dim view of dogs. So the broader session centered on the perceived threats posed by the increasing influence of Sharia law in the United States, particularly concerning civil liberties, foundational principles, and Republican governance. Additionally, the hearing examined the potential conflicts between Sharia based institutions and federal law, as well as the Constitution. Now, here is a video, but it is over 2 hours long. I am not going to play it here. We will just continue on with this article. Members of Congress heard testimony from a total of 4 individuals, the first of whom was Amon Blair, a senior fellow with the Texas Public Policy Foundation's Secure and Sovereign Nation Initiative, and a consultant to the Operation Lone Star Task Force. He spoke next. He addressed the critical issue of religious liberty in America, affirming that while the First Amendment guarantees a right to practice religion freely, it does not exempt individuals or groups from adhering to the rule of law. So, no matter what your religion is, you do not get an exemption from the law, is what he is saying. Quote, a crime remains a crime regardless of religion, and no religious, ideological, or political system possesses a constitutional license to violate the rights of a sovereign nation, a sovereign state, a political subdivision, a private property owners, or individual citizens, he explained. Blair also cited Governor Greg Abbott's designation of both the Muslim Brotherhood and CARE as foreign terrorist organizations and transnational criminal organizations at the state level. Yes, we very much should. The principles of Islam, the core values of Islam fit right in with the radical left, and well, with the left, there is no radical left anymore. They're all as far left as they could possibly get, and the ones who aren't are being gotten rid of. They're being systematically put out of their positions. So that leaves only just the far left, and Sharia and the Quran and the core beliefs of Islam fit right in with the left's beliefs, the communist beliefs. Um, they actually kind of mesh together. However, um, I've said many times that in this effort where the Muslims have joined forces with the communists, it's not going to end well for the communists because they've done this before, and it didn't work out well for the communists. See, Islam, their entire goal is a global caliphate, meaning that there is no other governments, no other constitutions, no other religions, no other anything except for Islam. So, I mean, that is what their ultimate goal is, and that's what they're working towards, in all of these countries where they have pretty much taken over, and they start using the country's laws against them. That's what they're doing here. They're using our First Amendment freedom of religion because they tout Islam as a religion, while in behind closed doors they say Islam is not a religion. So they are using our own laws against us. And we've got to put a stop to that. According to Abbott, quote, the Muslim Brotherhood and CARE have long made their goals clear: to forcibly impose Sharia law and establish Islam's, quote, mastership of the world. In his written testimony provided to Congress, he also noted Abbott has directed investigations into entities, quote, masquerading as legal courts staffed with judges issuing orders that purportedly carry the authority to bind individuals to Islamic codes, thereby preempting state and federal laws, declaring that legal disputes in Texas, quote, must be decided based on American law, not according to Sharia law. And disputes should be adjudicated by American law, and the Constitution, etc. So we've got to convince our government. We've got to convince our representatives and our uh, senators, etc., and our local governments that they need to abandon this love for Islam and love for the Muslims, and protecting them, and etc., etc., etc. And we need to get them out of this country. I know that sounds just so racist and whatnot, but they're not compatible. And these people are brought up from babies into Islam, and it's drilled into their heads. They are they're filled with the hatred of Islam, not the hatred for Islam. They're the hatred that Islam teaches. Anyone who is not a part of Islam is hated, is ridiculed, is, if they can, is humiliated. So, and pretty much put to death as well. Mm. Blair asserted that the overarching message underscores the necessity of maintaining a unified legal system to ensure the protection of all Americans' rights, irrespective of their faith. Next, Amy Meckelberg. She's known on social media as Amy Mech. The founder and editor in chief of RARE, Rise, Align, Ignite, and Reclaim Foundation USA. And I get a lot of stuff, a lot of my information on the Muslims and their agenda, etc., through the RARE Foundation. I do get information elsewhere as well, but I get a lot of stuff from them. I am a supporter of the Rare Foundation. But she offered her testimony. She revealed her personal battle against what she perceives as Islam's encroachment on Western values and freedoms, detailing the personal risks she faces, including threats to her family and the assassination of her friend, Salwan Momika. Quote, Sweden put him on trial for hate speech, for telling the truth about the threat that killed him, she explained. Quote, Islam is a hostile totalitarian political ideology using our freedoms to destroy us. Just as I said, they're using our own constitution, our own Bill of Rights, and etc. Against us. To every non-Muslim, it offers three choices: convert, submit, or die. It does not stop until every court, school, and government on earth is under Sharia. To that end, she warned that Islamic groups, particularly the Muslim Brotherhood, orchestrate a systematic plan to undermine American institutions and culture through the establishment of parallel Islamic societies and the infiltration of various sectors, including education and politics. She continued highlighting alarming developments in Texas and Florida, such as the construction of an $80 million Sharia compound in Katy and the widespread conversion of churches into mosques. And it's happening left and right. Churches are being taken over by the Muslims and converted into mosques. They like doing that. They like to desecrate old churches belonging to Christians, etc. And they like doing it right in the middle of a neighborhood, so the whole neighborhood can see and basically know that they've been conquered. She provided an example, though. In Dallas, two imams who preach hand amputation, uh, sex with captives, and stoning adulterers are suing to seize a Christian megachurch. So, yeah. Addressing the members of Congress gathered at the hearing, Mecklenburg delivered a compelling conclusion to her testimony, stating, quote, "The American people are awake. Washington is not." So we must choose. I I burnt my tongue earlier, and it's causing a little bit of a speech impediment, a little bit of difficulty saying certain words and letters. Um, the Constitution or the Quran, America or the Caliphate, um, freedom or submission. There is no middle ground. Hunter Lopez, a student and founder of the Republican Student Club at Wiley East High School in Texas, followed Mecklenburg. He described a 2024 incident at his school, saying the conservative student club faced significant hurdles in gaining approval, while other groups promoting Islamic ideology and gender affirming beliefs were accepted without issue. Despite meeting all requirements, including having 10 members and a teacher sponsor, the club was initially denied on the basis of being political in nature. Oh, I apparently skipped over a little paragraph, but it is of very little consequence to the whole article. So, after extensive communication with administrators, the club was eventually approved, but faced ongoing scrutiny. Instances of censorship and hostile oversight. In contrast, a during a school lunch period, a booth promoting Islamic beliefs, including materials on Sharia, was set up by the organization, quote, Why Islam, without any intervention from school officials. The incident raised concerns about the promotion of Sharia in public schools, uh, which Hunter Lopez argued is incompatible with the U.S. Constitution and American values. And it is totally 100% incompatible. In fact, a number of prominent imams and leaders of the Islamic governance have stated that when they do take over the United States, that is their plan, that is their agenda, and they have set a goal of having it done by 2050. That's 2050, which in the big picture is not far from now. And they state that they do state here lately that they are actually ahead of schedule. But they state when they do take over that the Constitution will be, cast aside, and the law of Sharia, the law of the Quran, will be in its place for all of you and me too. Nearing the end of his testimony, he stated, quote, Public schools must remain neutral. They exist to educate, not to promote foreign legal systems incompatible with our Constitution or to favor one ideology over another. What is happening in suburban Wiley, Texas is not isolated. If Sharia can be introduced this easily in the small suburban town of Wiley, it can happen anywhere. Last week, the Gateway Pundit reported on the viral exchange between Representative Jamie Raskins and this very apt teenager. Raskin questioned the need for a session focused on whether the U.S. should implement special laws for certain religious groups instead of adhering to secular law. Raskin posed follow up questions to Hunter Lopez, skillfully countering his statements at every turn. Is it any wonder that Hunter Lopez has received pushback and has even faced death threats for voicing his opinions? Quote, I had people saying that they were going to be at my house waiting for me to get home and they were going to shoot me, Hunter Lopez shared with the subcommittee. I had people telling me to kill myself, a lot of different things. But I know nobody can proclaim anything over me because I wake up every morning in with victory in Christ. That's right. That's right. Absolutely. Wake up every morning in victory with Christ. The very organization, Why Islam, that brought Hunter Lopez into the spotlight regarding this issue in America is linked to terrorism. As previously reported by the Gateway Pundit, the Islamic Circle of North America, ICNA, serves as the main representative organization for the South Asian Islamist movement, Jamaat Islami, JEI, in the U.S., with JEI's militant faction, Hizbul Mujahideen, classified as a terrorist organization since 2017. Right, right. That is, it's mentioned over and over that it is a small suburb. So, but thank you for the clarification that it is east of Plano and it's an outer suburb, you know. So yeah, they and Epic City is by far not the only mega mosque city entity that is being built in Texas. They have quite a number of them going on, and they're doing it in defiance because Texas has enacted numerous laws regarding Islam and the creation of these Muslim only cities within Texas, as well as the Sharia courts that exist in Texas. ICNA's websites have previously linked to groups such as Hamas and Hezbollah, and the organization has also supported the Islamic Society in Gaza, which is known for radicalizing children for Hamas. None other than the organization, quote, Why Islam is involved in the proselytization efforts of ICNA. Recruitment. That's what proselytization means. They are radicalizing and recruiting. The first three guests provided a collective account of genuine threats and dangers facing America. However, Amanda Tyler, a constitutional attorney and the executive director of Baptist Joint Committee for Religious Liberty, joined the hearing, presenting an alternative perspective. For her, religious liberty is a fundamental principle that must protect all faiths, requiring government neutrality towards religious beliefs. She said this principle was reaffirmed by the U.S. Supreme Court, emphasizing that the government cannot favor or oppose any religion, but Islam is not a religion. Tyler said, quote, anti-Muslim government action violates that clear command. Even proposed legislation targeting a particular religion can undercut our fundamental religious freedom by perpetuating harmful stereotypes and misinformation about Islam and Muslims. She argued that, quote, efforts like these sow misunderstanding about Islam and Sharia. No misunderstanding. I understand it pretty darn well. Quote, particularly at a time of rising political violence, she said. Well, excuse me. The majority of the violence is coming from the left and from Muslims. uh, but anyway, quote, particularly at a time of rising political violence, she said, targeting groups based on perceived differences threatens to exacerbate tensions and contribute to a culture of fear, discrimination, and violence. Well, I'm sorry, but when your religion calls for the complete annihilation and elimination of all other religions, when your so called religion calls for the complete and utter annihilation uh, and subjugation of nations and their governments, you know, when your religion calls for the murder of anyone who does not uh, bow to your God or your ideology, it is not a religion, and is not subject to the protections under the Constitution. In the end, Tyler said that such government actions not only harm Muslims, but also undermine the broader concept of religious freedom for all Americans, highlighting the need for leaders to promote inclusivity rather than fear mongering and distorting one religious tradition for perceived political gain. As the hearing concluded, it became evident that the debates surrounding Sharia law and its implications for American society extend far beyond mere legal interpretations. Um, they touch on the very fabric of civil liberties, religious freedom, and the fundamental principles of governance while lawmakers navigate this contentious issue. One thing is certain: it is imperative that they remain vigilant in upholding the ideals enshrined in the Constitution. So, yeah, I don't think the discussion of religion should even come into that particular discussion. That's my personal opinion, because they're not a religion. When compared to Christianity, they are not a religion compared to pretty much any other so-called religion around the world. They are not a religion, and as a matter of fact, they have plagiarized from multiple religions. So, anyway, up next, this should alarm you. Democrat Maureen Galindo, running for Congress in Texas, pledges to send, quote, American Zionists to internment camps. Now, I realize that they call anyone who doesn't agree with them Zionists. So, literally anybody that doesn't agree with them should go to an internment camp, according to them. So, I mean, this should actually alarm you. We have somebody who's actually running for Congress in Texas, pledging to send anyone they perceive as a quote American Zionist, whether they are or not, because it's all about my feelings on the left, not an actual rule of law. And this is the person in question, Maureen Galindo, via Facebook. Maureen Galindo, who was chosen by Texas Democrats, terrifyingly with about 29% of the vote, to advance to the party's primary runoff for the state's newly redrawn 35th congressional district, is under fire for inflammatory remarks that include a pledge to send American Zionists to, quote, internment camps. In an Instagram post last week, Galindo wrote, when Maureen gets into Congress, she'll write legislation so that all of Zionism and support of Zionism is undoubtedly anti Semitic, since it is Zionists harming the Semites. Okay, well, I'm sorry, but that you know just because you disagree with them does not mean you are hurting anyone or you are anti-Semitic. Now realize that anti-Semitic. What is a Semite? A Semite is pretty much all of the peoples of that region over there in the Middle East. Um, they are Semites. Uh, whether they be Arab, whether they be Israeli, whether they be Jordanian or whatever, they're Semites. And if you're anti-Semitic, well, you have a problem with all of them. So, quote, she'll turn Carnes ICE detention center into a prison for American Zionists and former ICE officials for human trafficking. So they're construing immigration enforcement with human trafficking. And in parentheses, it says it will also be a castration processing center for pedophiles, which will probably be the most of the Zionists. So, and here's a post from Bill Melugin. Maureen Galindo, a Democrat running for Congress in Texas, 35, says in an Instagram post that she would turn ICE detention center near San Antonio, quote, into a prison for American Zionists, and will also use it as a castration processing center for pedophiles, which will probably be the majority of them, is what she said. Per the Current, quote, I think it's actually the Zionists who are putting Jewish people at the most risk, Galindo told the Current last week. San Antonio Jewish Federation, JFSA, doesn't see it that way. The JFSA strongly condemns the spread of anti Semitic tropes and conspiracy theories in public disclosures. The group said in a statement responding to Galindo's remarks, divisive and hateful rhetoric targeting Jewish community has no place in our civic life. Even some Democrats are distancing themselves from Galindo's ugly and dangerous rhetoric. Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries of New York and Representative Susan DelBene of Washington, who leads the House Democrats' campaign arm, criticized Galindo. This vile language by her and her is disqualifying and has no place in American politics, and certainly not in the Democrat Party. The two Democrats said in a statement released on Tuesday night. Democrat House Leader Hakeem Jeffries on Trump voters. Quote, this is another thing that should worry you all. This is why I push voting. Oh yeah, I'm a Zionist spy, I'm on their list. Those communists got me on their list. I'm a Zionist spy for real though. Y'all didn't know? It is dystopian. It is. And hang on, listen to this right here. Hakeem Jeffries says this about Trump voters, quote, our hang on, let me get my highlighter working. Quote, our goal is to break them. To break them. During a recent event, House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries spoke of people who voted for Trump and said, quote, our goal is to break them. He is not saying, quote, here is how we will improve people's lives. No, he is talking about, quote, breaking his fellow citizens for not voting the way he wants them to. So freaking inspiring. Such an uplifting message, isn't it? Isn't it, though? Isn't it just so uplifting? And there's transcript here, and there is video. I don't know how long it is. I'll check and see, and may or may not play it.
I guess part of how we
Oh,
as
yeah,
House
yeah.
Democrats view this moment, either MAGA extremists are going to break the country or we're going to break them. And our goal is to break them. We will defeat them. We have to beat them electorally, and then we have to break their spirit because of the extremism that's being unleashed on the American people. That's completely and totally unacceptable.
So there you go. Right out of the horse's mouth. If they retake power after the 2026 midterms, we are going to see a replay of what happened after they retook power in Trump's first term. The Democrats have nothing to actually offer. And that's true. They have absolutely nothing to, I mean, remember the Kamala Harris campaign. She didn't even have a platform. She didn't have any policies that she was promising to enact. Not until she started copying Donald Trump. Because at one point, just about everything he said he was going to do, she came out and said, I'm going to do that too. Only I'm going to up the ante a little bit. So, I mean, they do not have a platform. They do not have, apparently, any policies that are actually their own. Now back in the day, Democrat, Republican, whatever you were, you had an entire, list of things that you were going to put into place once you got into your office that you were running for, and people would vote based on that. You would go out and you would tell people what those policies were, what those plans were going to be. And, the general American citizen would make their decision based on, do they like those promises, those policies. So they have none. Okay. Up next, Representative Chip Roy files a bill to ban Chinese communists and radical Islamists from buying American homes. Absolutely, because those American homes should be going to American citizens. That is just simply how it is supposed to be, in my opinion. Representative Chip Roy has introduced a new legislation to stop Chinese Communist Party members, radical Islamists, and other designated foreign adversaries from purchasing homes in and real estate in the United States. In an announcement on Tuesday, uh, Roy declared that American property should belong to American citizens, not geopolitical foes who seek to undermine the country from within. The bill would explicitly prohibit individuals affiliated with the Chinese Communist Party, Islamist groups, or other designated adversaries from acquiring residential property inside the United States. And there is Representative Chip Roy's press office on X. New Representative Roy introduces the Ban Chinese Communist and Islamist Home Ownership Act, legislation which would ban foreign adversaries from buying American homes. American homes belong to American families, not the Chinese Communist Party, foreign Islamists, or anything else. Quote, American homes belong to American families, not the Chinese Communist Party, foreign Islamists, or our geopolitical foes, Roy told the Daily Caller. While Americans struggle to afford housing, hostile regimes are buying up our land and our neighborhoods. This bill slams the door on foreign adversaries owning American housing and forces them to sell what they already control. Roy added, quote, we're putting America's homes back in American hands. Housing affordability is a top issue for American families struggling with high prices and limited inventory. While foreign entities, especially from China, continue to snap up homes and farmland in strategic locations. They have a lot of farmland that is literally right adjacent or right next to many of our most important military bases. What do you think they're doing on that farmland? Farming? No. They may have a few people actually planting some stuff and harvesting it just to put up the show of farming, but it goes no further really than that, in my opinion. The Daily Caller reports, as of the end of 2024, foreign ownership in America totaled almost 46 million acres of land and over 86 billion in value, according to a report from the U.S. Department of Agriculture. Under Roy's legislation, up to 338,000 acres of that land owned by foreign adversaries could be eligible for divestiture, totaling up to $1.1 billion in property, according to the documents reviewed by the caller. Roy's home state of Texas has one of the highest rates of foreign ownership, with over 5.6 million acres of land reportedly owned by non-Americans. If the legislation is enacted, land in 20 Texas counties is totaling up to 124,000 acres. Wow. That's a lot of acres. That's a lot of land. But that should also be eligible for divestiture as well. So if this bill goes through, they will begin the process, and it is a process, of pretty much taking the land back and not allowing them to buy more, not allowing them to have home ownership, and etc. Representative Roy also recently introduced the Measures Against Marxism's Dangerous Adherents and Noxious Islamists Act, which would dramatically expand immigration enforcement by allowing the deportation, denaturalization, denial of entry, or denial of citizenship to any alien who is a member or advocates for socialist, communist, Chinese Communist Party, or Islamic fundamentalist charges. But that's supposed to, just basically reinforce what he already introduced. In my opinion, it does the same thing pretty much. Except they include the denaturalization, denial of entry, denial of citizenship, and deportation in this one. And they're also including, quote, advocates for socialist, communist, Chinese Communist Party, Islamic fundamentalist ideologies. The Mamdani Act, they did that on purpose. The Mamdani Act, introduced in April, targets individuals who do not share American values and instead seek to import ideologies hostile to the Constitution. The bill's name is pointed reference to New York City's Mayor Zohran Mamdani, a naturalized U.S. citizen and democratic socialist. Roy's office has framed both pieces of legislation as essential national security measures that address gaps in current law that have allowed foreign adversaries to gain footholds in America. They're a little bit more than footholds. They're about up to their hips. You know? But anyway, I lost my place. Roy's office has framed both pieces of legislation as essential national security measures that address gaps in current law that have allowed foreign adversaries to gain footholds in American communities through real estate ownership and unchecked immigration. Right. Made it through that. So there is, and this isn't the only piece of legislation that is being presented in either the House or the Senate, because there are pieces of legislation being brought forth to both the House and the Senate. Do I expect them to get passed? No. Do I wish they would? Do I hope that they do? Absolutely. Absolutely. And I want them to go even further, and pass, immediate mandatory expulsion of all foreign adversaries, as well as these Muslims, these Islamists who are trying to Islamify our great American nation. So, and yet, once again, this is why we've got to do our part and contact our congressmen and our senators and, tell them in no uncertain terms that, hey, you work for me. And, I don't necessarily approve of what you're doing. I don't necessarily have to pay you. Because, see, we can always get someone else. So, I am currently experiencing issues with my blood sugar. I'm sure some of you have noticed. What is that, Elf? Believe it or not, you get ads on Rumble against Chip Roy, probably geographically based. Yeah, probably they are probably are geographic based. Well, these days, a lot of your political ads are fake AI slop, as you called it. And they Rumble allows those ads and everything simply for the money. I mean, I wish I could say there was some profound reason why they allow those ads and whatnot, but it really is simply just for the money, to try to um, hyper fund Rumble and various projects, um, etc. So and plus they gotta pay the creators. So I mean, of course they're gonna sell ads to pretty much anyone who wants to buy an ad. Um, of course, probably with the caveat that the seller doesn't necessarily get to pick on which uh, account, on which podcast the uh, the ads are presented. Because I mean, Rumble has its ways of choosing, where ads are going to go. Plus, they use an algorithm and Google. Most everybody uses Google AdSense for their provision of ads. So anyway, right, right, right. All right. Well, anyway, because I'm having issues with my blood sugar, it is rapidly falling, is what is happening. It's going low, which is a dangerous place to be. Going way too high is really dangerous, and going way too low is really dangerous. Because I am having those issues, I'm going to have to go ahead and call this show. I know it's really short; it's only about an hour and a half at this point. But I feel like I'm probably about to pass out, so I don't want to do that on camera. I have actually had that happen before, and I don't want it to happen again. So, with that being said, God bless you all. I thank you so much for coming and watching my podcast, and for some of y'all listening to my podcast. It is very humbling um, that you could have gone and watched and listened to any other podcast out there on the internet, and you chose mine. I thank you so much for that. God bless you all. God bless America. Lord knows this country needs all the blessings it can get. And I'm going to ask you all to pray for our country. Uh, we need all the prayers for our country that we can get. And do me a favor, show me some love. Hit that thumbs up or like button, whatever it is on your platform. If you're not already following my channel, please do hit that follow button and or subscribe button, whatever you see on your platform. Turn on your notifications so you know when I come on, which is Monday through Saturday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Plenty of opportunities to come and see and hear Big Tony speak. And when you do, remember, Big Tony will speak on it, whatever it is. You all have a great night. I am going to go take care of my medical issues, and I will see you all next time. Thank you so much again. Have a great night.
Here comes Tony, walking in the room, mic in hand, something's about to boom. Tell me what you gotta say. Tell me, make it count today. Big Tony speaks, and everybody listens. Big Tony speaks, his voice just keeps on lifting. When Tony talks, you know you gotta hear him. Big Tony speaks. Sit right down, let me hear your voice. Share your thoughts, Tony gives you choice. Tell me